Hello everybody and welcome back to This Week in Xbox Live Indie Games. We have a staggering 10 games to get through this week, so without further ado, let's get started. Unfortunately, a lot of the games this week play like someone played Action 52 and decided that all those games needed to be better was basic graphical improvements and a lower price tag. Musickness is by far the worst offender of that though. You play as a treble clef who has to collect blue musical notes while dodging red ones. Pretty creative, right? As if that weren't bad enough, the music itself is hastily thrown together, cheap-sounding garbage that almost makes me thankful that there's only a handful of tracks in the full version anyway. Overall, I can't recommend that anybody get down with the musickness. Newscopter actually sounded kinda cool at first. Even though it looks like a total abomination graphically, flying a news helicopter and collecting photos from real-world locations could have been cool in a Pilot Wings meets Pokemon Snap sort of way, until you realize that when they say collecting photos, they mean it literally. You're not taking photos, you're collecting photos you find on the ground. I'm pretty sure that between importing the horribly compressed satellite maps and modeling the helicopter, except for the blades of course, this game went from conception to completion in less than 2 hours. For all the total abortions you run into on Xbox Live Indie Games, occasionally you come across games where the developers clearly put in an effort, but for one reason or another, things just didn't turn out. Mons is one such game. It's a platformer that looks pretty good and actually has a story including an opening cutscene, which is borderline unprecedented considering the other games we've seen this week. Unfortunately, the tutorials are very unclear. I mean, look at this picture. Can you tell me what the hell I'm supposed to learn from this? It also suffers from clunky controls, which unfortunately render the game much more frustrating than it should be. Good on the developers for trying, but hey, maybe next time. Our first of two Piscine-themed games this week is the aptly titled Fish Game. You're a fish, and your job is to lead color-coded schools of smaller fish to their color-coded zones of protection. After Plug-a-Mons, it's refreshing to get back to a game with sparse, boring visuals and no engaging gameplay to speak of. Even the title reeks of laziness. I mean, is there anyone out there at all who would be browsing for games, see a game called Fish Game, and be interested in it in the least? That would be like calling Super Mario Bros. Jump Game. Accurate? Yes, but not very interesting. The second underwater quote-unquote adventure we have this week is Natural Selection. This is an adaptation of the Flash game every kid played in 6th grade computer class where you control a fish that gets bigger and bigger by eating fish smaller than itself. Gameplay-wise, it's very uninteresting, but I was honestly struck by the soundtrack. It's just one looping piece of piano music, but it's honestly beautiful. I know that these videos are largely an outlet for me to make fun of terrible games and their despicable designers who release total shit on the market just to make a quick buck, but it's important to stop every now and then and give credit where credit is due. Unfortunately, after I finish the level, the music ends abruptly and the game freezes, as if to remind me that it's not my job to admire music, but to talk about games. And apart from the music, this game sucks. But it doesn't suck quite as bad as The Defenders, another new release this week that seems to take inspiration from one of the worst games ever made, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde on the NES. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think the resemblance is uncanny. Anyway, you play as a warrior who has to protect his homeland from an invasion of ghosts. Not only is it boring and repetitive, but it constantly reminds you of all the better games you could be playing like Terraria, Castlevania, and Worms. Apparently the game is more well suited for co-op, but I'd probably have an easier time convincing 3 friends to play 4P ping pong than this. Like The Defenders, Siege King: The Siege of Ulmur offers co-op, but the game itself is so unintuitive that I can't imagine that there are 2 people on Earth who aren't relatives of the developers that would ever want to play it at the same time. It's a top-down action game similar to, I don't know, those weird levels in Contra 3. The main problem here is that the game is just too damn difficult. I keep dying over and over 30 seconds into the first level when I'm mobbed by guys and it doesn't seem like there's anything I can do about it. All I have is my sword and a force field, but I can't kill them all before they kill me, and when my force field is active, I can't attack, so I guess I'll just die. But then, even after I die, the game just sits there until I actively hit start and go back to the lobby. I guess I can understand not restarting automatically, but to not even put a restart option in the menu is total insanity. Lootfest Live Design is another game that makes absolutely no sense to me. It's a sandbox game almost offensively inspired by Minecraft, but I can't seem to actually do anything. I can't break blocks, I can't build anything. After a while I found an option in the menu to drive an RC car, but apart from that it doesn't seem like there's a whole hell of a lot to keep players entertained here. I'm not mad so much as I'm just baffled and confused by this game. Considering we had 2 Pong clones last week, I guess we can be thankful that there's only one retro ripoff among the latest crop of Xbox Live indie games. OctaPeed is a game heavily modeled on, you guessed it, Centipede, although it also liberally takes elements from Snake. You know, it's honestly not horrible, but you can play better versions of games like this online for absolutely free, unless you really want to see this blown up on your TV in widescreen. And finally, I've saved the best for last in Don't Die Dateless Dummy. This is a dating sim, and I'm not necessarily a connoisseur of the genre, but it seems competent enough. The reason this game is so hilarious, though, is because of the horrible attitude and ideas about relationships that it portrays. For example, don't girls have it a bit too easy? In order for a man to be desirable, he has to be fit, rich, confident, funny, outgoing, have friends, and have interesting hobbies. What does a woman have to do to be found attracted by men? Not be fat. If either of these things were true, 90% of the world would never even lose their virginity, much less find a significant other. Time to join a college club. Whoa, better not join anime club, that road leads to destruction. Instead, I'll join drama club to learn how to be an alpha male, because girls like a guy who's ashamed of his passions and pretends to be someone he's not just to match the expectations of people he's never met. This is not and will never be a show where I give relationship advice, but seriously, what a load of dog shit. Well, that's it for this week in Xbox Live Indie Games. 10 new titles, and sadly not a real gem among them. Hopefully by this time next week there will actually be something I can recommend in good conscience. Thanks for watching, see you next time.